Welcome everyone to our July Teach Educational Rounds. Here with us again this month, we have Jodi Wolff and Carolynne Cooper, who will be presenting on motivational interviewing and addressing the writing fixing reflex. So we're going to go ahead and start with KMH's land acknowledgement. KMH is situated on lands that have been occupied by First Nations for millennia. Lands rich in civilizations with knowledge of medicine, architecture, technology, and extensive trade routes throughout the Americas. In 1860, the site of KMH appeared in the Colonial Records Office of the British Crown as the council grounds of the Mississaugas of the New Credit, as they were known at the time. Today, Toronto is covered by the Toronto Purchase Treaty No. 13 of 1805 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Toronto is now home to a vast diversity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis who enrich this city. KMH is committed to reconciliation. We will honor the land through programs and places that reflect and respect its heritage. We will embrace the healing traditions of the ancestors and weave them into our caring practices. We will create new relationships and partnerships with First Nations, Inuit, and Métis, and share the land and protect it for future generations. So I now invite everyone to introduce themselves in the chat and let us know which traditional territory you're joining us from today. If you're not sure, you can visit that website there. I can put the link in the chat. And you're also welcome to let us know something that you're doing to learn or improve your commitment to reconciliation. For those that are joining for the first time, I'll just share a little bit about myself in the meantime. So my name is Natalie, and like KMH, I'm currently located on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit. I'm of Italian descent. My grandparents arrived in Canada from Italy in 1958. I've lived in the city of Toronto for almost 2 years now and have grown to truly appreciate the community and the vibrancy that this land has to offer. I acknowledge the privilege I have as a white settler to live here and be within close proximity to all my daily needs, especially as someone with type 1 diabetes. I'm particularly grateful to have access to insulin and all my other required medical supplies and treatments. So I myself am committed to reconciliation. I continue to listen and learn about the stories and cultures of various Indigenous communities and ensure that their voices are heard and reflected within my work and personal life. So thank you everyone for joining today. I see everyone sharing in the chat. Please do keep sharing in the chat. In the meantime, I will just continue on with a couple more housekeeping items. So we wanted to, once again, just let everyone know about our upcoming Foundational Health Educator Workshop coming up in September. If you are wanting more information, you can email us at teach@kmh.ca, or you can go directly to our Moodle site, our e-learning site. So I can put the link there if you're interested in registering. As well, if you're interested in receiving a letter of completion for this Teach Educational Rounds, please make sure you're registered for the webinar and completed the pre-learning assessment. As well, make sure you signed into the webinar using your full first name and last name so we can track your participation. And last but not least, make sure to complete the evaluation and post-learning assessment that will be emailed to you by the end of the day. And you'll have 1 week to complete that. Along with that, you'll also receive the recording as well as the slides if you would like to review or share with any colleagues. So here's a little bit more information on our presenters today. First up, we have Jodi Wolff, who has over 19 years experience as a clinician, educator, and social work leader. She is currently a manager with Intrepid Lab here at KMH. Jodi has certification in concurrent disorders, advanced competency, complemented by a DBT training, and is a member of MINT, the Motivational Interviewing Network of Trainers. So welcome, Jodi. Next up, we have Carolynne Cooper, who has over 25 years of experience in working with individuals, groups, and family members. She has been a subject matter expert on a number of teaching and training initiatives, primarily focusing on MI and concurrent disorders, and is also a member of MINT. Carolynne is currently an advanced practice clinical leader here at KMH. So welcome, Carolynne. And no disclosures for them to report. So here's a little bit, please know that the content of Teach Educational Rounds is centered on evidence-based guidelines from the following sources. Nonetheless, these materials, as well as the verbal presentation and any discussion, represent only general principles, and they do not remove the need for clinical assessments or treatment plans by healthcare professionals. So please feel welcome to use the chat feature throughout the webinar to post any comments or answer any prompts from the presenters. To do this, you can click on the speech bubble icon in the control panel at the bottom. And please just ensure you select everyone so that all panelists, hosts, and attendees can read and respond to your comments. You're also very welcome to use the reaction feature to send a smiley face or thumbs up at any point throughout the webinar. So feel free to do that. With that, I'll hand it off to our presenters to take it away. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the webinar.
Thank you very much, Natalie. It's our pleasure to be with you today. We were here a month ago, roughly a month ago, and at that time it was really our pleasure to connect with this group and really focused on the heart of motivational interviewing, which is the spirit, our way of being with folks, as well as MI skills. So our micro skills, our ORs, and informing and advising skills. So we plan to use the chat extensively this session. We're really looking for you to use that in a way that's an equitable way for everybody to participate. I will let you know that both Jodi, Natalie, and I, all three of us, are on site at our hospital. So there may be moments where we need to mute ourselves so that you don't hear the overhead codes in triplicate. Nonetheless, we're looking forward to having an engaging session today. So our agenda, just to give you a sense of what to expect, really drilling down on the writing reflex today. And we're going to be linking that to a reflection on values as well as a reflection on some key traps to avoid in our work together. So just as a, sorry, go ahead, Jodi.
No, that's okay. I was going to give a definition so people could have an understanding of where we're going today and set the stage a little bit more. We're going to get started looking at the writing reflex as our focus today. And the writing reflex is defined by Rolnick in 2008 as the human tendency to correct things that are perceived as wrong. So you can see here the tendency often leads to premature problem solving, advice giving, presenting a barrier ultimately to the people being actively involved and engendering rebellion. I'm curious, and maybe Carolynne, we can start using the chat a little bit here. If people can share with us, if folks can tell us on a scale of 1 to 10, how familiar are you or comfortable are you identifying and knowing what the writing reflex is? So if 1 is not at all, this is a new concept, I'm really not so familiar, and 10 is, oh yes, I know exactly what this is and when it comes up and what to do about it. So I see a 1 so far, an 8. A 10.
Oh, this is great. We have good diversity. Oh, and thanks. I saw recognition there is something and familiarity is quite another. So really appreciate that comment as well. And being able to do something. So those are all pieces that we're going to be exploring. Like, what do you do? How do you recognize it in yourself? How aware are you of this? Yeah, so I think those are all important kind of pieces and components, just kind of yeah, hard time not reacting. What do we do in the moment? So I'm really curious. Like, I know for me, the way I experience the writing reflex is very cognitive. And what my experience is that moment where I go in my head, fortunately not out my mouth most of the time, except sometimes with my kids. Oh, it would be so much fill in the blank, better, easier, more effective if they only did this, chose this, went this other way. So for me, I know that that's the writing reflex, that when I have that kind of cognitive thought, but others may have a different way of recognizing the writing reflex in themselves. Maybe more physical sensation, more an emotional kind of piece. How do you recognize that in yourself?
I know for me, Carolyn, it tends to be more emotional, more reactive. I can more physical. I can feel my face starting to get a little bit red, my body getting a bit tense. I tend to lean forward a bit, like I'm about to kind of jump in and want to correct or want to advise or want to give something to shift where things are going. Let's see what others have to say too. I see it's starting
Yeah.
to come out.
Hand
Hand
reaching out
reaching.
to fix a salt shaker. So that automatic reflex, I really like that. I mean, a visceral discomfort. Oh, both cognitive and emotional. So why aren't they doing something that just seems so crystal clear? Like, why would you not move straight forward in this other way? The urge to start talking or interrupting. Okay, and we're starting to get strategies. Okay, cognitive, it could be cognitive and emotional for you as well. Starting to bargain. The urge to fix or really appreciate that and just make someone better, which is natural, right? We're all in a healthcare helping profession. We bring that experience and expertise. Okay, and I'm starting to see some, yeah, but is a reaction. Sometimes just starting to talk before you even realize. Um, and then thinking, what would I do in that situation?
I love the conviction in that answer. Absolutely physical and emotional.
Yeah. No. Okay, toxic positivity. That's interesting.
Overcompensating, going one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It seems there's one of the themes I'm hearing too is this sort of urge to jump, to do it really quickly. Like there's an urge to go fast, to correct it before it derails too much or falls off.
Yeah, very reactive response, right? It feels like it's urgent. Like you have to jump right on that too. Like that incredible sense of urgency. So maybe this is a okay, and then starting to think about how we're going to counter that. That's where the kind of expert in us comes forward. Have you thought about this? What about this? And then we start to get ourselves into that position of making suggestions. Has anybody ever been in that place where you make suggestions? What about this? Oh, this is, I know I've done it with my kids sometimes, right? And it's just like skeet shooting. They're like, no, that's not going to work. No, 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 no. And then we start to sacrifice our our relationship. Okay, so we've got another reaction, an imaginative one. Really appreciate that, Ryan. Just seeing an outcome and a desire to spare the other person from that experience and that pain. And just realistically knowing that you have expertise to share and wanting to prove your value. Okay. So maybe this is a moment to take a minute and show a video. And Natalie, you're going to help us out with this, I understand. So, and people may be familiar with this.
You're welcome to put in the chat as it's playing anything you notice about yourself and your reactions as it's playing. Oh, Marilyn knows the video.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing.
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See,
out.
you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just sometimes it's like there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Come on. If you would just
Don't.
Try to see things my way. Do I have to keep?
I've seen it so many times and I love it more every single time. I'm
So
wondering,
positive. Yeah, go ahead, Jodi. Sorry.
no, I'm wondering what comes up. There's clearly a sense of people understanding or relating to it, and seeing the humor in it. But I'm wondering, in terms of like the experience for yourself, do you think that you would be able to sit back looking literally at the nail in the head and not say anything? Do you think you would have the urge? How big would the urge be? I'm curious what comes up. You
So
wanted to
we're
pull it
seeing
up
some
for her.
reaction in the chat. People really connecting with having been in that seat. Challenging not to just pull that nail out. Rosa, thanks for your honesty there. The big urge to just say something, and the recognition of how hard it is not to. And then I'm just really curious, like, what did folks notice about the woman's reaction? When that writing reflex, the guy didn't resist. And I really appreciate that comment that I'm seeing in the chat. Like, it's difficult, Kathy, to see anything beyond the nail in that conversation. And I do know,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm also noticing Penny's comment though that she's been on the nail side. And I
yeah,
think that's really important too. I know that there's been times for me where I've gone into a conversation and I'll preface it with, I just need to vent, or I just need to get this off my chest. But it can be really hard. What did you notice for her? What was her reaction like? What was her, where was she coming from? Not feeling seen or heard, incredibly frustrating, increasing frustration, tense body language, absolutely. Yeah, she was frustrated. And both of them, it sort of felt for me like were caught in their own position. She was caught in not being heard, and he was caught in trying to fix, it seemed. Anything else that people noticed?
yeah, the woman not feeling understood. And so that really limits any possibility for change, because that relational foundation, that I think about one of my mentors in motivational interviewing, Steve Berg-Smith, and as he's saying that people won't really change until they feel understood, or until they feel like you have some capacity to begin to understand their experience and their position. Yeah, so sometimes he did validate for feelings, but then would kind of go back and slip back into that writing reflex and say, I told you so. And just really flagging for folks how alone she felt. And then I think there's a couple things here that Kim's raising that are really important, is kind of balancing that professional responsibility to say something with fighting the urge. So, yeah.
And also what Myra's saying, sometimes the solution's not that simple and obvious. Perhaps there is some awareness that something's in her forehead, but the fear of removing it, or the fear of the blood, or what if it, something happens, or it's holding something together in her brain. I don't know. I could go lots of places with this, but Rosa, exactly. She
Yeah.
starts bleeding profusely. I mean, there could be the potential of so much more, but what we're seeing seems so obvious to us.
Yeah,
Maybe
and so
to
I
us.
see people are making connections, right? And just thinking about, how it fits with family, how it fits in our professional contexts too, where people aren't always this direct, have this skill in communication or this transparent too. So we're going to invite you to share, like, what do you do in the moment? Like, how do you manage this? The writing reflex, this quick urge that happens. It feels so intense.
Yeah, and I want to say, April commenting that it would be so difficult to not point out, but she's telling him what she needs. She's telling him, but he's not hearing. And I think that that's often what happens when we get so caught up in what we're supposed to say or what we know the answer is. Often we stop listening or we stop hearing what the person is telling us. So what do we do in that
Yeah.
moment?
And what do we do when we notice it's just beginning or when it's in the middle place? Like, I think about the scaling that we do with our clients, right? When it's really early on, what do you do? So I'm seeing some folks pause, hold your tongue, don't interrupt, take that moment to be mindful. Blurring our different roles. I really appreciate that comment, Stacy. And keeping in mind that sometimes it is our role to provide direction or offer advice, and we can do that in MI Spirit. It's the timing that's critical. Attentive listening. Okay, our chat is blowing up. Making mental notes, just taking a note. Reflecting or summarizing, which is a good way to kind of slow it down too. It gets you focused.
Carolyn, someone also said, I take a moment to actually write down something they've
Yeah.
said. So feeling like giving yourself the physical permission to stop for a minute and actually write down exactly what they're saying so you have no choice but to slow down and hear them. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. I also really appreciate the comment from Leona just about being in the moment and not feeling that pressure to respond immediately. Yeah, having a pause, really reflecting what you've heard. And sometimes just being okay with not saying anything in the moment. Mm-hmm.
It can be a hard one.
Yeah.
I know for me, sometimes it has to be a physical change. I'll really kind of sit up or put my feet on the ground and take a breath. Like I need to physically change my position to feel that I can refocus and come back to the moment. Trained to use a proxy.
Yeah.
Current role, focus on an item. Lovely.
Hmm.
It's so interesting because so many of these things are what often we teach our clients and the people that we work with in terms of mindfulness, in terms of focus, and yet in these moments it can feel so far from anything we want to do or think to do.
Okay, so Andrea is asking for a little bit more explanation about what Stacy's saying. Yeah, than a proxy with respect to proxy. So I'll let that continue in the chat. And this is what we're trying to avoid. And people have been very articulate, right? In terms of we want to avoid that angry, frustrated, agitated person, the person who disconnects and doesn't return, who feels not understood, not cared for, and afraid. So I'm going to invite folks to come along with Jodi and I on a bit of a journey. And I'm going to ask you to just go with me on this, if you will, and to imagine we've pressed the fast forward button. It's a fall evening. It's about 6:30 at night. And you've had just a tiring, busy day. You've had your first day back, maybe after vacation. You've had 3 really complex, challenging clients. A couple have had safety issues. You've had 2 new folks that you've had to take on, and they were not straightforward. You have another commitment right after this. whether it's volunteer work, whether it's supporting your kids and taking them to activities, or supporting older adults or anyone else. So life, we're back to normal. We're no longer in summer mode. Life is going on. You have just arrived home, and you're pretty much done in when your phone rings. It's security at your local airport. It seems that when you came back from vacation on Monday, you accidentally picked up the wrong bag. And a young person from Windsor, and if you're living in Windsor, we're going to ask you to think that maybe that young person is in Oshawa, picked up the bag from the carousel. Security is calling you and they're saying, please, can you just call this person and arrange to swap bags? And it hits you in that moment. Okay, oh no, my bag. You check the one you've picked up. Sure enough, it's full of used soccer equipment and it smells nasty. It's had some time to incubate. And you ring the young man immediately. There's a lot of noise in the background, but he seems pretty friendly. He says, well, it's no problem. Come on, get it tonight if you like. Just walk in. You know, I'm having a party. Maybe it sounds a bit like it could be a frat house, but you never know. So we were not going to hear the bell ring or anything. Just walk in. The place is going to be open. You know what? There's a cupboard just under the stairs. I'm going to pop it there. Easy for you to get. But you know what? If you want to come in and have a bit of a chat, you're welcome to do that too. And come anytime you want. Doesn't have to be tonight. Usually there's somebody there. You log on to Waze, so the wayfinding app, to figure out how long is it going to take you to drive to Windsor and back. The website tells you that a truck's turned over on the 401 and there's long delays. You've got to be at work tomorrow. You're presenting at a COP and you've got a full slate of clients after that. You're looking at a minimum of a 5-hour trip to Windsor and back if you're lucky. You've tried to get hold of a courier or an agency, anybody who can get your bag tonight. You know, this is about the last thing you feel like you need. Head into maybe some frat party, the chaos, the drive. So we're going to ask you to just take a moment and reflect. What would have to be in your bag to make this trip, getting in the car, facing this 5-hour round trip when you're already fatigued? And keep in mind, it's the fall, so it's not light till 8 o'clock anymore. What would have to be in that bag that you would value, that is so close to your heart that you absolutely cannot live without it any longer? Just feel free to pop it in the chat. Take a moment, pop it in the chat.
Passport or purse? Quick answer. Your phone. Cell phone. Laptop.
Medication.
Medication.
A charger for
Hearing
hearing aid. Oh, all the pictures on the phone in particular.
Snacks. Children's medication, camera, running shoes.
Okay.
Must be a runner. I don't know if I'd go back to
Makeup.
my running shoes.
Okay.
And
Makeup. Great.
Chromebook, meds,
Chromebook.
paperwork.
Paperwork. Yeah. Meds and money. Okay, your wallet. So all your ID and cash, everything.
That wallet. Wallet
Yeah,
and
that
meds seem
wallet.
to be the most common. A
A
small
small water
lipstick.
bottle and Lipsol. Okay. So I'm wondering, what kind of feelings and thoughts are coming up as people see this list run past? A favorite top, maybe. So what thoughts or feelings are coming up for you?
I know for me, as the items pop up, I'm thinking, would I go back for that? I'm sort of questioning for myself. A bit anxious. Interesting. I wonder if you can say more about that. Wow.
Okay, so reflection that priorities are different. Some frustration. Why are certain items so important to other people? Yeah, great. Everybody prioritizes things in different levels.
Thinking how much I value my phone.
Yeah.
I think about that too, for sure. Weighing pros and cons. So would I or wouldn't I? Is this worth it? That kind of thing. Could it wait? Frustration not getting the right bag.
Right. Having strategies so that wouldn't happen. And items that are very essential to everyday life. And people are curious, like, this is triggering that curiosity, that interest. Like, why are these items in your bag? Okay. So we're starting to think about how you can manage, noticing that difference in terms of what people value versus what you value yourself. Some folks are really triggered with just like overwhelmed with themselves, so tired and so frustrated and starting to feel anxious. Others are starting that curiosity, that active interest is getting triggered. Now, we're going to ask you to imagine that you might also see items like, whoops. Oh, sorry about that. Gone too far. So we're going to ask you to imagine that you might be seeing some items also like this, things that there's no way you'd go back for. Cell phone, runners you could maybe buy that evening if you really wanted to, a gaming console, an iPad, maybe my Trader Joe's and Target haul if I've come just across the border, what I picked up at the duty-free shop. Yeah, so Penny's saying, you know, part of it is the items don't matter. Now I'm going to ask you to imagine that whatever was your heart item, the item that you couldn't live without, someone's telling you that those things just don't matter. It doesn't matter. They're replaceable.
Why
Or
would
they're
you go
not.
back for that?
Why would you take the energy when you're exhausted to make a 5-hour drive to pick that up? And it's just an unacceptable item to have on the list. Like, why would you do that? So we're getting some reaction in the chat. Because it matters to me. They may have a story. That funding may be an issue.
To fix the fix-it piece,
Fix
right?
it. Yeah. Yeah, it's something that you really, really value. And it would really, you know, if we were friends who were not listening well, it would really, really trigger you. So I think that's about wanting to right the wrong. And probably what the impact on other people is. And just even to justify to somebody else why it's so important. So now let's switch our hats a little bit and imagine that you're working with someone who's left behind a pack of cigarettes in their grandmother's lighter. already kind of got this sense that we have different values, that things may have some kind of sentimental meaning or difference. And at the same time, in healthcare, we know that smoking is not healthy. We may even be working with someone who's changed. So I wonder how would folks be? Maybe just a thumbs up if Jodi and I, or is it okay with Jodi and I kind of carry on with this and just do a little bit of a role play together?
Let's do it.
Yeah. So Jodi, yeah,
There we
you left behind a pack of cigarettes and your grandmother's lighter.
Yeah.
So what? I know you. I know that you've got 2 young kids and that your career is so important. Help me, you know, help me understand. What is it about that pack of cigarettes and your grandmother's lighter that is so, I know that we both live in the same city. You could get a lighter and a pack of cigarettes around the corner.
Yeah. Honestly, Carolyn, I don't want to spend the money on cigarettes. They're like 20 something dollars a pack. I'm trying not to smoke. It helps me to have it. If I know I have it, I want it less. And my grandmother passed away like 3 years ago. That's one of the few things I have of hers. I'm picturing this party house with tons of people where my bag is. They go
Right.
through my bag. Why wouldn't they grab a lighter?
Right. So this is part of your coping strategy in making the change that you've made in your life, having these things, right? Knowing that you always have the choice by having the cigarette
Yeah.
and also having something, that has a significant sentimental value to you and that memory of your grandmother.
Yeah, no one else is going to care about that. They're going to see a lighter and a free pack of cigarettes. Of course, they're going to take that. They may not take the shirt or, all my other stuff, but a pack of cigarettes and a lighter, of course, that's like an easy, I'm sure they're having a party. That's an easy thing to grab and probably the most important thing to me in that bag.
Okay, you're right. So it feels very, very risky to leave it behind.
Yeah.
That lighter could go missing so easily.
Yeah.
And it's more than just a lighter to you.
Yeah, totally. And it's 5 hours. I've already been gone for days. My kids aren't gonna, they'll understand. They'll have to understand because it's what I need to do.
So you're sure you're making this trip?
Yeah, I mean, I feel a bit guilty because you're questioning it. I feel like maybe I should think about it, but I don't want to. I want to just go.
Okay. So let's stop there for a moment. And I just want to invite the group. Where would you take things from here? We have a little bit more information. We've got a sense of the meaning of the pack of cigarettes, the lighter, sort of the value of that in Jodi's life, or we're going to call Jodi our client today.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, so we have someone with a lovely, generous spirit and heart who'd go with there to keep her company. Yeah, so it's about compassion for others. Talking her
It's
out of it.
interesting, Karen, to hear you say that it's not about like trying not to talk her out of it, because in many ways, before I said that I'm feeling a bit guilty, I actually didn't feel like I was being talked out of it so much as needing to just explain it. I think maybe I know Carolyn too well, so I felt she was too kind. But it is an interesting question, right? Do we talk someone out of it, and what's our role in that conversation? What about the workday
I'm
tomorrow? So
seeing,
thinking long term.
yeah, go ahead. I'm seeing lots of stuff in the chat that's so good that we want to include. Yeah, so just a deeper exploration about, you know, what might happen if you didn't go and gave it a little bit more time. I also see people making suggestions about affirming changes that have already happened in your life and reinforcing kind of personal choice. And really inviting someone to think about, like, someone encouraging us to invite you to think about, okay, so let's just slow down a bit and take a moment. So, you know, 5 hours from 6:30 at night with absolutely perfect traffic, which I've never had, to be honest, heading that way on the 401 any time of the day or night. Like, what might your day look like tomorrow? So in the moment, you're so worried about the lighter, but what might your day look like tomorrow, and how, you know, how are you going to manage? That might be an area that is worth exploring.
I
And
like
also,
Stacy. My fixing impulse is kicking in right now. I can really appreciate that part.
oh, so I'm also seeing strategies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And coming back to a place of curiosity, curious about the urgency to go. So it's not just about how to make it happen tomorrow, but it's the urgency and really kind of exploring that more. It's
And
great.
then so people are reflecting, right, on the danger of driving tired. And I know from my days in working in problem gambling, there's lots of evidence on that. And how might you feel if you don't go and do this? And how significant is the fear of losing that object that has such a precious meaning and memory? And just reinforcing that personal choice and control, you know, but wanting to have a thorough exploration. So tell me more about this plan. What would it look like? What are the pros and cons of taking this trip? And Jodi, like, I think the group is wondering, you know, if you slip back into that role, if we've taken some time and we've explored, you know, kind of the pros. One of the clear pros is that you'd have that precious memento and it would ease your anxiety. You'd have it in your hand. And we've talked a bit about this, like, what's going to be helpful in terms of how we talk about it from here.
I guess just thinking about the logistics of how to make it happen, like really figuring out. I feel that I'm committed to going. This is something I really value and is really important to me, and I'm going to do it. So I think what I would appreciate from here is to think about who's going to take care of my kids and, you know, how I'm going to get there and what I can bring to make sure that I'm safe and to do it in a way that I'll feel comfortable with.
Okay. So the logistics, the problem solving, you may have already given some thought to who can look after the kids.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to pull from the chat. You know, one of the things, and I hope you're okay with us continuing this discussion, and with me doing a little bit of exploration. You know, one of the things that I'm wondering is, what other ways might you be able to ensure that that lighter, that precious object, stays safe and is available for you to pick up?
I mean, the only thing I thought of for a minute was reaching back out to the person to say, could you not leave it, where you said it was so accessible and easy to grab, and maybe put it somewhere safer, knowing that I wasn't going to go tonight. But honestly, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would even trust them. They probably are drinking, or I'm not sure I even would trust them to do that.
Right. Okay. So you've thought of something that you feel is a pretty reasonable request, and there's good potential. You just have to think about how to ensure that it stays safe and that you can access it when you need it.
Right. Like, I'm not waiting another day. If I don't do it tonight, I'm doing it tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, so you're starting to think about, is it tonight? Does it have to be tonight? Or could I make the trip tomorrow? So you may be thinking through your day and how it looks and wondering if maybe you could make the trip a bit earlier in the day when you've had a chance to rest a bit, maybe.
Yeah, my husband said he would take the kids in the morning. I could, get on the road early. But if that lighter goes yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if I can do it.
Okay. So I'm seeing safety concerns, right? And I'm wondering, Jodi, like, I wonder if it would be okay if I shared a little bit of information.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, if you
This
know.
may be helpful because I
Sure.
hear you're really giving this a lot of consideration. And while it's important, it sounds like it's even part of your relapse prevention plan. Um, you are really open to thinking about, how can I make sure I get this and be in a safe way? You want to make sure that precious object is kept. I do have a little bit of information about driving with significant fatigue that may be helpful to just add into the mix. Would it be okay if I shared that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I've had quite a day, and work-wise, personally, I'm definitely fatigued. I think my adrenaline might override, but yeah, tell me, of course.
Okay, so a couple things. And I'm just gonna riff because I'm no longer up to date on the driving while fatigue, but there is a significant body of research that lets us know that, you know, fatigue, and by that I mean lack of sleep for long periods of time, and this would put you in that risk level, has the same impact on us as drinking alcohol. And so it can really impact judgment. Um, I'd be really concerned about you dozing off. I also know that when we have that boost of adrenaline, often what happens is there's a drop too. So these are some things that I start to think about that make me a little bit worried about you making this trip and making um this journey that's
So what do
really,
I do?
yeah, realistically. So that's my information. I just wonder what do you make of that now that you have maybe a little bit more information on the impact of driving with that level of fatigue?
Yeah, I mean, I I hear what you're saying. I get that, and I think that it's making me think how tired I really am, and all that I've done today and lately, and that I probably shouldn't drive. It's probably not in my best interest to be on the road tonight, but then what do I do? Like, that's where I go, right? I don't just stop and, okay, I won't do it, because Carolyn, like,
Yeah, this is
okay, I won't have
important
my
to you.
cigarettes, but I'm not gonna not have the
Yeah,
lighter.
yeah, I get that. I get that. So I wonder, you kind of said maybe you could contact this guy again, and you're wondering if they could keep it in a safer, less accessible, like less open place, because that is the one thing that's so precious to you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could call and just see what he says and then make a decision.
Okay.
And yeah.
So let me just ask Jodi at this point in time, and I'm happy to talk through this a little bit more if you want, but on this point in time, where would you put your confidence in being able to make a call to the guy on a scale of like 1 to 10, where 1's like not at all confidence and 10 is like, I could totally do this, make this call. I feel
Yeah, I'm like a 9. Like I can make the call. I feel really confident at a 9 that I can make the call. I don't know if I'll trust his response, but I'm really confident that I can make the call.
okay. And what puts you at a 9 rather than say a 7? Do you know about yourself and just your ability to connect with this person and plead your case?
Yeah, I guess it's just being worried, being like in the back of my head, I have worries of he's not going to answer, he's not going to know what I'm saying, he's not going to do what he says he's going to do, he's going to be intoxicated when he answers, he's going to be distracted. That's kind of the piece that's holding me back.
Yeah. So you're thinking about all those pieces. And I'm noticing in the chat, I wonder if maybe this is an opportunity to stop our role play for now. Just because I see people are starting to sign off, and I want to make sure that we have some opportunity to just invite folks to hop in on the reflection and to just even some of the get some thoughts about some of the things people were concerned about in terms of even just balancing the responsibility as a professional to share information and highlight or flag risks too. So we still have a good number of participants.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I see some questions like, were we bargaining? Are we meeting halfway? So I wonder, Jodi, how would it start? How did that session feel like for you, that role play?
Yeah, I think the piece that stood out to me the most is that you weren't honing in on questioning my value of the lighter or the cigarettes. That I didn't feel that you weren't understanding or hearing that piece. You really honed in on the safety, and separating that for me allowed me to listen to you in a different way, I think. Which was helpful.
So I see comment from Leslie. So Leslie's asking directly for change talk, some good reasons to go, what are some reasons why it might be better to wait? Yeah, and Andrea, thank you. Yeah, so just writing Reflex. So asking permission, you're right. I mean, part of providing information in MI style is asking permission. And in that context, Jodi gave me permission when I said, hey, Jodi, I'm wondering, like, how would it be if we took some time and I shared a little bit of information about what we know about driving, driving tired or driving with significant fatigue.
Carolynne, I know that Natalie's going to want us to stop in a minute. Yeah. I'm wondering if we can just quickly show the next slide or two, just to give people a sense, some takeaways, if you will.
Some takeaways. So focusing on the relational in terms of common reactions to being listened to. I always think about the David Augsburger quote, being listened to is so close to feeling loved that most people can't tell the difference. And really what we want to do is all the things that people were popping in the chat and encouraging, right? That's to, resist the writing reflex by supporting autonomy, offering some guidance, listening, reflecting, evoking motivation. And I think the one thing that we want to leave folks with is that this is an oldie now, but a goodie rule. So resist the writing reflex, understand your client's motivation, listen and empower your client.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you so
And
much, Jodi and Carolynne. I'll take back control if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Of the slides.
I think
Awesome.
you have an evaluation.
Yes. So, oh, you have a couple more slides. Did you want to quickly ask people? No? Okay. All right. And then there's a couple of resources here. So we'll share these slides afterwards. So everyone will have a chance to see these resources. But thank you so much to you both for such a great presentation today and last month. We really appreciate the knowledge and expertise both of you bring to this topic. So it was very lovely, and we had such an engaged group the past couple of months. So it's been awesome. If there's any outstanding questions, is it okay if they reach out to you? Awesome. All right. So their emails there if you need them. And just a couple of reminders. So as I said, we'll be sending the recording as well as the slides to everyone who registered by the end of the day today. So look out for that. Along with that, you'll also receive the post-learning assessment and evaluation if you're interested in receiving a letter of completion for this Teach Educational Rounds. And just kind of a heads up about our next upcoming webinar on August 23rd on vaping in youth. So keep an eye out for registration opening soon. And then if you missed a portion of today's webinar, would like to view it again or see a previous Teach webinar, an archive list can be found on our website. For now, thank you all so much for listening and participating so much today. This has been great. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks, everyone. Bye.